Welcome back into the channel. This is going to be a very exciting update about BYU basketball. The last video that I made was mostly around the coaching staff that has been formed by Kevin Young over the past few months, which is still highly impressive what they were able to do with bringing together one of the most experienced, diverse, proven coaching staff in the history of BYU sports, let alone basketball. And again, all of this is proving that Kevin Young saying that he wanted to make BYU the best place in the country for players to come and get drafted into the NBA. He wasn't just saying that to hype up the fan base, he really meant it. And every day it's looking like that vision that Kevin Young has for the program could actually be a reality. And it's really for two main reasons that I want to cover here in this video. First being the players, and two being the culture. So let's dive into it. Again, as I've covered in previous videos, this offseason for BYU has been a roller coaster of emotions. After a disappointing loss in the first round at the NCAA tournament to Duquesne, hopes were still decently high that BYU was bringing back a formidable team, and the only real question mark was whether or not Jackson Robinson was going to come back for another year or go off to the NBA. Well, all of that stability was pretty short-lived. The coaching carousel quickly started making its rounds, and after a few dominoes falling into place, Mark Pope was off to Kentucky, bringing along with him Jackson Robinson and Colin Chandler, who would have been BYU's highest rated recruit in the program's history. Without a doubt, it was a dark few weeks for BYU fans. But to quote the late Harvey Dent,
"The night is darkest just before the dawn. And I promise you, the dawn is coming."
And as was the case for BYU basketball. Shortly after those departures, BYU found their guy in Kevin Young with the Phoenix Suns, who generously took a first-round sweep to the Timberwolves just so he could get to work building the country's newest blue blood in Provo, Utah. And he started us off with something slight, a little appetizer, if you will, by getting Dallin Hall and Richie Saunders to come back to BYU and be that solid core for next year's team. And he quickly followed that up by flipping Brody Kozlowski from USC to BYU, a local talent who probably should have been a Cougar in the first place. Previous coach may have had something to do with that, but I won't be speculating on that kind of stuff in this video. And then things started to heat up even more by flipping Elijah Crawford from Stanford to BYU. And no doubt bringing on Stanford assistant Brandon Dunson had a huge role to play in getting him to come to BYU. And all of a sudden, BYU is a top 30 class for the 2024 season. And couple that with some nice transfer additions in Mawad Mag and Keba Keita, two guys that bring experience, athleticism, and a toughness on defense. This was looking like a solid squad again. All things considered, a great start for Kevin Young in his first season at BYU. And even with that group alone, it was arguably BYU's best recruiting class ever. The only other class that really rivaled this one was probably 2013 and 14 when BYU was able to sign 3 4-star kids out of Lone Peak who were the national champions that year. A trio that had a lot of hype, but never quite lived up to it, never got to play together all that much. And along with that brought a lot of stuff behind the scenes, which could be an entirely other video. The point is, Kevin Young was putting together one of the best recruiting classes ever, and he still had 3 scholarships left. And after several weeks and tons of unofficial reports, BYU finally and officially signed young Russian star Yegor Demin. The 18-year-old is a projected lottery pick in the 2025 NBA draft, which is honestly just absurd to be talking about with a BYU recruit. Being a 6'9" point guard that can pass the ball, that can beat you off the dribble, and has a decent finish at the rim. And with the way that international players have dominated the NBA these past few years, my hopes are high that he can make an immediate impact in a loaded Big 12 conference. However, on top of that, Kevin Young was still not done. Kanan Catchings has officially announced his commitment to BYU. The 4-star, borderline 5-star talent decommitted from Purdue a few weeks ago and was immediately on BYU's watch list. The reason being is that Tim Fanning, one of his coaches at Overtime Elite, is now on the coaching staff at BYU. Catchings could easily be a one-and-done player and be drafted in the first round next year. And on paper, he is now officially BYU's highest rated recruit in program history. And yeah, that's even above Colin Chandler. It's completely insane to say that BYU now has the 12th best recruiting class for 2024, according to 247 Sports. And that's not even including Igor Denim, who as an international player doesn't have those rankings on 247. But let's be real, if he's considered to be a lottery pick in next year's draft, he's got to be at least a high 4-star probably a 5-star recruit. So if you throw him into the mix, this is looking like a solid top 10 recruiting class in the country. It just cannot be overstated how monumental this offseason has been for BYU. And really, one can only hope that this is a sign of even more to come. I mean, it's no doubt BYU knocked it out of the park with its hiring of Kevin Young, but there does appear to be a distinct switch that happened this offseason. Behind the scenes, the athletic department has obviously made changes in order to navigate the expensive waters of NIL. Basically, what I'm trying to say is they're opening up the piggy banks. It's no question BYU has always had the funds. There's plenty of wealthy alumni from the school, including Ryan Smith, but the culture at BYU has always been to find the right fit rather than shell out the money to get the top talent. And I don't know if it's the Big 12 insisting that they invest more into the basketball program, given the fact that Brett Yormark has been pretty vocal in his desire to have the Big 12 seen as the outright best basketball conference in the country and market it that way for more revenue. I really don't have a clue on what's prompting the change. Maybe it's their faith in Kevin Young to be able to bring these guys in, so they're kind of loosening the chains a little bit, letting him do his thing. I assume that was part of Mark Pope's frustrations with BYU. To me, it's a welcome change, and it'll really be interesting to see if they can actually land any of these 4 or 5-star recruits over the next 2 years. However, even thinking about it outside of the money, I do think BYU does have a unique advantage that they could leverage in order to keep this momentum building over the next few years. Granted, Kevin Young and this staff still have to find consistent success in the Big 12, and they have to get these guys drafted into the NBA. But if they can do that, I think they have a strong pitch for future one-and-done type players to come to Provo, limit the distractions, focus on your game, get paid, develop under an NBA caliber head coach, then go off and have a successful career in the NBA. And based off the caliber of players that BYU is offering in the 2025 and 2026 class, I think Kevin Young and his staff are confident that what they have to offer at BYU is what these top prospects are looking for. However, only time will tell. And lastly, I don't think it's a coincidence that Kevin Young's coaching staff has such diverse experience both in the college ranks and internationally. And with college players being able to get paid, I think we're just going to be seeing more and more international talent like Igor Denim coming overseas to develop in the college ranks. I mean, Igor Denim left Real Madrid, one of the best international basketball clubs in the world, to come to BYU. It's actually insane once you think about it. Kevin Young appears to be wanting to position BYU ahead of the curve and be the landing spot for not only the top US talent, but the top global talent. It's really exciting to see, and with one scholarship left, basketball season can't come soon enough. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.